Artifact 12 is where I will demonstrate how I use assessment data to inform and guide instruction based on the individual needs of students. Students were given a test on the topic of apartheid in South Africa with 18 multiple choice questions and one short answer. At a quick glance, I can see that overall the scores were great with an average score of 92%. The graph gives me a clear indication that apart from one student, no one scored less than about 62%. Therefore, I need to dig deeper by looking at the stats for each question to inform future instruction. In the short term, I need to look at the responses from those who scored below 80%, our benchmark for mastery. To identify them, I have separated the data by class. In this class, I see lots of 90s and even a few 100s. I make a note to look at Alex's, Matthew's, and Jackson's tests to find out where they need remediation. I do the same process for this class. No one failed, but I do need to follow up with Christopher and Dylan. The process continues with my third class of the day, where only Katie needs some additional teaching. In eighth period, my fourth class of the day, I will follow up with James and Ronald. And at the end of the day, I really need to figure out what happened with Ariana, who only scored 20% on this test. So I have identified students based on their total score who will need remediation. I now look at the questions they missed so I can look for patterns and tailor my reteaching purposefully. Also, within a few days of administering the test, my teammates and I gather to share our data. We decide if questions need to be tossed from consideration and or changed for the next year. We also discuss instructional strategies and resources that we used to decide whether they are still effective. So, some strategies I have developed from the data provided are to create a more targeted content in a GimKit or a Bookit review game, have students repeat the lessons in our online platform, Gallopade, ask students to create their own presentation of the topics they missed. They can use their own words to show mastery, create something in Sway, make an infographic in Adobe Express or Canva, even record a podcast episode. Incidentally, StudyCasts have been used since this particular test was given, and scores have gone up even more. Artifact 12 continues with illustrations of how I provide opportunities for my students to reflect on their own learning data. At my school, we have a three-question protocol for reflecting. We start with what is working, then we consider where are we getting stuck, and we finish with the thoughts on what might we do differently. Though general in nature, these questions can be used to reflect, troubleshoot, or debrief any problem or situation. And they are adaptable, which is good because seventh graders aren't the best at articulating their thoughts and reflections. So anything I can do to make the expectations clearer is a good thing. After each major assessment, when most, if not all, students have taken it, I return to each student their responses so they can see where they knew content and, more importantly, where they fell short. It would be impossible to show students' entire test, plus publishing online like this would jeopardize its integrity. But what I can show is a sample of students and their scores. When students receive their tests back, they are instructed to reflect on their learning and the assessment using the three questions. Jathra scored 20 out of 27 on this assessment, or 74%, which is below mastery. You can see his brief responses to the reflection. In addition to the data from the test, whenever possible, I use reflection responses to help tailor any reteaching. Jathra says the GimKit was helpful, but he didn't focus on the lessons about ethnic groups. He also admits that he should have used the study guide. That's a great place for me to start his remediation. Ahana did better, earning 85% of the points on the test. She is less descriptive than Jathra was, but at least I know she did her work and the study guide, all of which I can verify, of course. And then we have Jordan. Her test was less than stellar. She barely passed. Her teachers and I have been working very hard with her this year, and she doesn't seem to want to take any time to reflect either. The responses you see here are her second attempt at reflecting. Her initial responses were IDK in each of the three questions, which is seventh grader for I don't know. That was obviously unacceptable to me. So she did it again and gave me at least something to go on. So I had the data to work with and feedback to use, and I'm happy to say Jordan is doing better these days.